Hi, this is Dana, and on this channel I speak about spiritual warfare. Um, in this video, I'm guided to talk about a few concepts. Spiritual wisdom is very, very broad, it's very complex, and it's very difficult to put together all the details about the topic because it's so much, basically. Now I'm going to pick randomly some different topics, specifically with concepts, ideas, um, which were divinely guided to me as being useful right now for different people in circumstances of making choices, right? And this, of course, goes together with many of other videos in which I gave advice about the choices you should make for your highest good, because this is what we're talking about. We came here for spiritual fighting in 3D, like I said. You must always keep in mind what's your highest good, because you have to, no matter what happens around you, you have to carry on your fight as long as you can, of course. So one concept that I will pick up now that I have seen it under debate on other channels, and it's being presented lacking divine wisdom, understanding, is related to DNA. All these karmics and the Matrix being so obsessed with the DNA, stealing copycats, and bondage is created only to steal DNA or to affect DNA of another one, of a divine one, basically. Why? Because the spiritual DNA of an individual, basically, it's the identity of that individual. And it determines spiritual ranking, it determines divine rights, it determines um, protection that you have. It also determines the purpose that you have, the mission that you have, the assignment that you have, Unfortunately, all of these individuals seek to steal DNA from others for high ranking positions, but they don't understand that with that DNA, a lot of spiritual fighting comes. So it comes a divinely guided assignment comes. What does it mean? Let us say, although it's not possible, but let us say that somebody succeeds to steal a DNA, an identity from you. Um, that DNA, as I said, comes with a spiritually, divinely guided assignment. That means you will encounter certain number of specific type of spiritual fighting, specific type of darkness being thrown at you, which, because you have that DNA, on one hand, you have the resources and the knowledge to fight it, but on the other hand, you have the responsibility to carry on that fight. Okay? If you don't, you become enslaved by certain type of darkness. Okay? Now, as I said, they seek to steal that, but they don't understand that once they would get that DNA, spiritual DNA, the identity of that individual, basically they get with that a number of darkness attacks that come to that individual, because that DNA, that identity has the purpose of defeating certain type of principalities. For example, if it's a high ranking identity, spiritual identity. The highest ranking you seek to get, the highest attacks you will get. To make it this very simple, so you'll understand. So I don't know. I mean, it's this jealousy and envy which is beyond me, beyond my level of understanding. Why would you seek to first of all, why would you seek to envy somebody for an identity they have? Because that also comes with a lot of work, a lot of sacrifices, a lot of spiritual fighting, and a lot of turmoil that you go through, right? And you're not willing to put up with that part of the identity, namely with the spiritual fighting. So then, how come you would, first of all, why you envy that individual, since you're not willing to put up the same kind of work that individual puts up, but you only want the benefits of it? it's not possible to get only the benefits. You will get also the workload. You don't do the workload, then you will become the victim of that identity. Bondage is created on that identity. So I'm pretty sure that some of the karmics who are under judgment right now and are facing spiritual attacks, essentially from different stolen identities which they sought to steal. Now they hopefully they understand what it means when they see or they face now certain type of darkness being thrown at them simply because they have that identity, which was not meant for them, specifically because they were not mature enough, spiritually speaking, to deal with that. Now, on the other hand, another thing which I have said in my writings is that you can claim an identity from God. Why the fuck are they so stupid? I don't understand. You don't need to steal that from an individual. You can claim an identity from God. You can actually ask God, I want to get this identity and I want to break the bondages for this identity and to get the spiritual divine rights for this identity. And God will work with you. God will give you the type of identity that you are able to handle. And if you seek to get an identity which doesn't match your abilities, God will work with you to level you up to that level so you can actually receive the identity which you requested. And I'm not kidding here. This is seriously from my own experience. I have been through this. So, what receiving DNA from God, what it means, I'll give you an example. If you're in a spiritual fight, from my own experience, if you're in a spiritual fighting like I have been, and you have to face, for example, certain bondages created on you and your partner, but your partner is not there to fight with you because he is a jackass and he betrayed God, he betrayed you, and basically he's fighting against you. Now, what happens is that God will give you, will level you up, will work with you to give you new gifts, to give you new abilities and resources. That means basically that you will get a different identity. You will level up through one or many identities to a higher level in such a way so you can actually break all the bondage which was supposed to be broken by you together with your partner. That means that means that you will get to go through different number of spiritual DNAs while doing spiritual work to break bondages on each and every one of them. Okay, so you can actually do that either you claiming it or by God telling you. In my case, I didn't know to claim it. I didn't know to claim all this. Actually, God guided me. Now you will take this identity. Why? Because you need this gift and you need to learn this ability, and but with this identity will come also this bondage. Okay, I'll break it. Fine. So we go through it, and then next one, and then next one, and so on. So it's there is a possibility that you get the DNA first of all by claiming from God, working with God to get that, and second of all, if you seek to get that, you need to understand that there is an assignment with it. You don't need to steal it, and if you really insist on stealing it, you need to understand that God will send to you not God, but the divine justice basically is in such a way that the darkness will come, that darkness which is associated with that identity will come to you and will attack you. You must understand this. For example, some of the individuals who have been throwing black magic at me and sex magic and mirror magic and all sorts of stupid attacks, God has shown me the more they steal your light, the same, they are stupid because on one hand they are sending black magic to you and then they torture you to steal your light. As they steal your light, automatically the darkness they have sent to you will go to them because they have your light. They stole your light. So it's a vicious circle in which basically they end up getting upon themselves the same darkness which they sent to you once they steal your light. Do you understand? I hope I'm making myself clear. because it's very funny, sometimes God is very funny. I'm telling you, sometimes he's just smiling, and he's seeing, I've seen God watching some of these individuals who try to do a lot of harm, and he tries to help them, and then at one point he says, yes, you insist on this, okay, let's play this way. And then he becomes very funny guy, um, and he essentially allows things to happen. He's like, he insists that we try to, both you and I try to help him, but he insists on stealing your identity and transferring your identity to a karmic, a hoe, basically a hoe who's prostituting herself, literally, not insulting, but literally saying the truth, right? So just let him do that. And at the same time, all the black magic and all the attacks that all of them have sent to you now will go to her. Why? Because she seeks to be you. Now let her see what it means to be you. Let her see how it feels to face the type of darkness that you have been facing and fighting. And much of it is, by the way, sent by her to you. So she created that darkness, she sent it to you. And she does this in order to steal your identity. Well, it's very simple to understand that once you steal that identity on which you sent darkness, you will get the darkness you sent to that identity. Okay, so with the DNA, the spiritual DNA, it's not, so black and white. You steal it. It's not a piece of paper that you steal it from a place to another. You need to understand that there are consequences. Um, Now, after all of this is said and done, and all of this spiritual fighting is being put up, I have said in my previous videos, you can carry on your spiritual fighting on your own. You don't need to cling to an idea of a couple or of a twin flame or whatever. Of course, it's easier to fight together if you have a partner that you can trust. But if you cannot trust him, it's much easier to carry the fight on your own. Because what you're going to do now? Um, you can do that for those who are in the situation of not trusting their partner because the partner has done too much harm to them or their children or so on. You can do the spiritual fighting for you, for your child, for your lineage, for your blood lineage and soul lineage and so on. Now, the funny thing is that if you choose to do that, after you do all of this, usually they return and they say they want to come, we changed our mind. And this is the current phase when they are under judgment, and God keeps showing me that they keep making excuses. They say they didn't mean to, that somebody did black magic on them, that somebody whatever. They only make excuses. These are just excuses, and that they want to return, but they don't want to return. Actually, you had an identity. You had a DNA association and identity association with me or with another woman, right? You chose to betray. The woman broke the bondage by herself. Now, what the fuck are you coming back to? Why are you? The purpose of being together was to break that bondage. She broke that bondage on her own. Now, what the fuck you want to do? To split together the benefits, or she to pay your karma because you fought against her? So this is really, really, really silly. It seems to me really silly at this point in time. Really, I don't see the point of many of them lying or making excuses or trying to come back. I also don't see the point of anyone accepting them back, honestly, from a spiritual perspective. As I said before, your purpose is to fight the spiritual fighting, move on, not to get stuck in repetitive karmic cycles and keep paying for them and keep perpetuating all of these bondages, especially if you have children, because you have a responsibility for your children, what you give to them. And for second of all, once you break that bondage, as I said, you go through a certain number of identities and spiritual DNAs, basically, in order to be able to break that bondage. You are at a totally different ranking. You're a much higher ranking than when you started this spiritual fighting, right? That means the type of darkness that comes to you is it matches the type of elevation that you have been have been doing throughout this time. So you already are much on a higher level. You're gonna encounter higher level different type of attacks. Now what the fuck is he coming back to? Because you're not the same person. You're facing totally different, much more complex type of spiritual fighting. If he was not able to carry on the spiritual fighting on a lower level with you, loyal to you, now you will trust him that he will be able to match the type of threats that will be sent to you at a much higher level? First of all, he won't be able to. Simply, he won't be able. He must do his cleanup, his healing, his spiritual fighting, redemption, and so on. And how would you imagine? I mean, the willpower is something that you work in time. It's a matter of discipline a lot. It's a matter of determination and discipline. This takes exercise each and every single second of your life, with each and everything that you do in your life. You need to exercise your willpower, your decision making, your determination to stick with the decision, not to allow others to influence you, and so on. So if he was not able at a lower level ranking to do this, to stay in his power and willpower to pursue a spiritual fighting, do you think he's going to be able to do that at a higher level of ranking, where the type of temptation and distractions will be sent to him will be much more intense, of course, because it's a higher level ranking, a different type of darkness that is being sent to you. So no, it is not possible. I am convinced that it is not possible, and they shouldn't hold any grudges, of course, because they created the situation themselves. Nobody should hold any grudges. Everybody made choices, and there are consequences. Because I saw this in a comment somewhere, not on my page, but on somewhere where I wrote something, and somebody was talking about the sin of suicide. I intend to make a different video on that. But essentially, you cannot be talking about sins. I don't believe this is a very wrong way in which church tries to place fear and low self-confidence in individuals. There's a matter of choices. You make good and bad choices, or you simply make choices with good or bad consequences, whatever you want to put it. Yeah. The point is, everybody should be mature enough to accept the consequences of their choices. I'm pretty sure each of us at one point in time made bad choices. Just accept the consequences and move on. Don't bother people with drama and with scandal and so on. So this about DNA and spiritual DNA and ranking and identity, I already clarified to some extent. Then what I mentioned a little bit is about darkness. The darkness has a logic of its own, which is part of the divine logic, and is part of the astral rules of engagement. So you must understand the logic of the darkness. Like, for example, when an individual in this kind of situation that we have been discussing so far tends to come back to you and to insist on being with you, although they created the situation, you must understand that they carry a number of demons. I already said this, which they need to heal. First of all, the demons they carry are thirsty for toxicity. They will create toxicity on purpose, toxic encounters with you on purpose. They need to feed on that. That demon feeds on that type of energy, which it's an anxiety type of energy, and that demon feeds on that. This is how the demon feeds. And let me say something also, because this is important to know. Most times it's not the individual that wants to come back to you. Most times it's that demon who he carries and is addicted. That demon is addicted to you, because there is no pure energy to suck from that individual, because that individual has been creating so much darkness and toxicity that there is not enough light in him to suck. So the demon wants to suck your energy. This is why the demon is pushing him to come to you, you know. So this is really important to understand. There are situations in which truly demons actually fall in love with different souls, with pure souls, because this is how they feed. So a demon will push an individual who's harming you to come to you and to create toxicity in your life, because the demon wants to feed from you. And if you want to call it this way, there are many ways in which demons actually really fall in love with pure souls. Um, and there are many ways in which they feed from you. So I'm not going to enter into that. I wrote something here, but it's too small and I cannot see it right now. But I just want to give you a few more examples about darkness having its own logic, and this is important to understand. All the darkness sent to you in toxic relations. For example, um, there are many types of darkness. There are demons, the spirits, there are forms of thoughts and of emotions. That's demons without a body. Those are entities. Um, they will stick to you. Even curses basically are also dark energy, and also forms without body, forms of existence. Those entities will torture you until it finds a weak spot, or create a weak spot by trauma to feed on you, to infiltrate your energy. You must understand this.